We say a very good morning. He came from lowly beginnings. He climbed the presentation tree. And now my dear friend is not only back here, but the chairman of Reform. Good morning, David Bull.
Very good morning to you.
Morning, Doctor.
I have a bone to pick with you because I think you gave me a sore throat.
I knew you were going to say this, and you're the doctor, so we worked all weekend. It was an interesting weekend.
It was a great weekend.
In my guise, as you know...
Independent media advisor.
Media advisor.
Can I just say thank you so much for doing that, actually?
Pleasure.
And so just to explain to people... As chairman, I'm very keen that we have great candidates, that they're prepared as we go into the general election, which, my goodness, doesn't need to come sooner rather than later. But you and I trained 200 candidates over the weekend, and there were some really good people.
Well, I was one of the things that's sitting here, and I was just there as an independent, broadcaster, being asked to use my television skills to scare the bits off these poor people.
What skills?
Yeah, thank you. Great start. Well done, David. But it's quite interesting because the rhetoric, a lot of the rhetoric is, these people, reform, ragtag bail. I saw a cross section of young people, women, men, older men, I thought I would have passed 80% plus of the people I saw, which is extraordinary. And one of the criticisms, and we'll come on to Nadhim Zahawi in a sec, is that, reform, it's in a slightly difficult position, your party, because on the one hand, people will say, don't just become a breeding ground for disillusioned crap Tories. And on the other, they say, you've got no experience, you can't go into government because all your MPs are going to be... So I was motivated by the weekend. We saw some good people, but let's bring it to Zahawi.
Please do. Please do.
For you personally, before I throw questions, what did you make of the decision? What do you think of the decision?
Well, look, your point is very valid. So when I became chairman, we had 90,000 members. We now have 271,000 members. That's extraordinary. When I was deputy leader and Richard and I kept that party alive, we were polling at 2-3%. We are now polling at 33%.
Another 2 polls, I think.
Another 2 polls. I mean, look, there is some fluctuation, but if a general election was called tomorrow, which, my goodness, I hope it is, we would get anything between 271 and 450 parliamentary seats. So to go from 5 members of parliament to 450 would be extraordinary. Now, your point is really valid. So we've got great people. We've got people who are captains of industry or doctors or nurses or people who've been plumbers or electricians or whatever. They have come in and they're really passionate. And actually, just as an aside, one of the candidates that really struck me comes from a very difficult background. Both his father and brother are crack cocaine addicts. And he then told me what he would do about drug policy, and I was blown away, because that's the sort of people we need, isn't it?
There was a mother who, at one point, I don't want to name her, who freaked out on some other part of the service. She came to me, she said, I'm not going to be able to do this, and I said, you will. Turns out that she's a teacher. Turns out that she hates the fact that the 3 R's aren't taught. She hates the fact that winning isn't seen as good anymore. I think there were some really interesting people, but...
So just going back to Nadhim. So you're right. So people like us because we're different, we're not career politicians, that actually we believe this is the last chance saloon to save this great country. And I really do believe that. That's not just rhetoric, actually. But at the same time, Nigel and I have spoken at length. We don't have the experience to run government. We don't have the experience to cut the blob down. And that's why the defection of Danny Kruger is a very good defection. Danny has a brain the size of a planet. He's incredibly thoughtful. And he is going to be, or he already is, head of preparing for government. And Nadhim, so there has been some kickback on that. But look, he is a tremendously successful businessman. He was Chancellor of the Exchequer. He founded YouGov. He came in, and in the vaccine rollout, and as you know, I
don't think people from this morning give a toss about the HMRC thing. It's all about the vaccine rollout. I would agree with that. Let me read. No, let me put you on the spot.
All right.
This is from Les in Birmingham. I received that many phone calls yesterday from friends whose reform votes were nailed on that have now been lost, including my wife and myself.
Right.
No explanation from David Bull will secure my vote now for Nadhim. All you politicians are cut from the same cloth. This has caused reform in my area unbelievable damage. You know I do it straight with you.
Of course.
You can respond to Les in Birmingham.
Hello, Les. Good morning to you. Look, what I would say to you is actually, Nadhim, So I have major issues with what they did in COVID, as you know. My mother got a COVID vaccine injury, so I am very aware of what they did. What Nadhim did was he was tasked with the logistics of rolling out the vaccine programme. He was not tasked with actually who should be vaccinated in that government. But the point is, we could only do what we did, and it was an amazing rollout, but we could only do it because we'd left the European Union, and so that was a really good plus side of leaving the EU. So in terms of that, he is a brilliant person. He understands the civil service. One of the things that we have said we will do is cut the blob down to size. Now, the whole point about this, and I mentioned it last night on the media, which is that we are turning people down. This is not a home for failed Conservative or Labour politicians. We are taking the brightest and the best. Look, OK, Les isn't happy with that decision, but I'll tell you what, as this then rolls on, and remember, Nadhim doesn't actually have a formal role. He has joined us. That is the point. And in terms of the party growing, I have to professionalise it. We have to bring in people who know what they're doing. And so in some ways, I rest my case. But look, give us a chance. I will prove to you that actually the party hasn't changed. Nigel, Richard and I have not changed our stance on compulsory vaccination, which was abhorrent. We should never have vaccinated children in the COVID pandemic because they didn't need it. And actually, the idea, and remember, it was Whitty and Vallance and Hancock.
Absolutely.
And then he discharged elderly people from hospitals without testing them into care homes.
My dad.
And that is what was abhorrent.
My dad. Don't think that we're being negative in any which way. From a texter, poll published this morning, you've seen this, right? Reform UK is at its lowest level since April, a new poll out this morning marking a continuation of the downward trend seen since October. The weekly Sky Times YouGov poll shows that Farage's party has dropped a further 2 points, whilst the Tory rise continues and Labour scrapes back a couple of points.
Don't believe it. But also the point is that different polls will vary. So there was another poll last...
You're getting good at this, aren't you? Don't believe it.
Well... you know me very well. Obviously, this is my talk is my home. Actually, it's so nice to be back. It's lovely to see you.
You're much smarter than me. You've already criticised my dress sense this morning.
Look, I miss it. I was here for 3 years, wasn't I, hosting Weekend Breakfast?
You were great.
So it's lovely.
It's never been the same. Mark Dolan's not a patch on you. I'm
good morning, Mark. But look, so the point is, and I know the talk viewers are predominantly
passionate.
Well, they're very passionate and they want this country to be better, as do I. And the point that I would make is, why did I leave talk? Because it was a home that I love and I love doing what I did, and as I said, great colleagues. But I did this because I passionately believe that I have to do it, because it's actually something that I feel so passionate about. And I go back to this thing that actually I think we are staring over an abyss.
I agree. Listen to this. Dr. David Bull, in your last Christmas show for Talk, I text you, this is from Linda, and told you reform would take our country by storm. Congratulations, you've done an amazing job.
Thank
P.S.
you.
I do miss your shirts. Jesus. Michael on...
You hate my shirts.
No, I don't. Michael on Nadhim, good morning.
Morning, Jez. Great show. It's Michael from Corby here. Just dropping a note in on the point of Tories defecting to Reform. Reform was supposed to be a party of British people, for the British people, putting our needs first. They've imported every Muslim from the Tory party whose only interest is the Muslim community. Therefore, Reform will be no better than the Tories or Labour, and they won't get my vote. We need a party that's going to put British people first for once. Have a great one, mate. Thank you.
Can I just make the point? They are British. So Zia is British. Layla is British. Nadhim is British. So I don't buy that in any sense. Look, the whole point is that anyone who comes to our party has to subscribe to our values. If they don't believe, and if they're not on the same page as me and Nigel and the rest of us, then they are not welcome in the party, and it's simple as that.
I've seen that. You'll have to take people for what they are, but it's very interesting. And for people who criticise me and say, oh, you've just got David onto the first 3 questions he's dealt with as you should deal with questions, because we live in a democracy. Reg Gardner, I don't know if he's a gardener or he's called Reg, he says, Jeremy, could you ask David, if Reform were to get into power tomorrow, as I hope they do, do we have enough people inside the party to run this country? Which is the absolute opposite to why are you recruiting all these people who have the experience?
But that's true. And also, I made the point yesterday that we have lots of people from Labour coming over.
Well, now, good morning, says Matt in Wolverhampton.
Good morning, Matt.
Massive Reform fan. He says, can you ask David, I'd like to ask him, when are we going to see a Labour defection to Reform?
So I'm in the papers this morning because I said on another channel yesterday...
Another channel?
Well, I know. Apparently some other channels exist. I don't know. The point is that actually when you look at who is defecting, 50% of Labour voters are now voting for us. We have lots of high-profile Labour councillors who've come across already.
It would really help the rhetoric, actually, that we're hearing this morning, that it's just a home for Tories.
But also,
high-ranking Labour official.
We have been approached by high-ranking Labour MPs.
Do they approach you, the party, or say in Zahawi? Invariably, it's people coming to you, not you casting the net.
Invariably, actually. Invariably. So we have Labour MPs, we have due diligence, we go through everything as we do with all candidates and deep vet them. You know, it cannot be a retirement home for Labour MPs, for Tory MPs or anyone else. And actually, going back to the Tory party, the issue they've got is they're not Conservative, are they? It's not one party, it's 5 different parties. You've got Conservative Growth Group, etc., etc., and the New Conservatives and whatever else. I think people have stopped listening to the Conservative Party. Labour, let's just look at the mess they've caused to this country. Keir Starmer, no ideology, no belief structure, has attacked pretty much everyone in this country. If you run a small business, if you're a plumber, electrician, everyone I speak to says we can't afford to take anyone on.
Absolutely
Pubs
agree.
closing all over the place. Energy costs far too high. And this morning we hear that the cost of net zero, £9 trillion. It's madness.
Don't get me there. Let's go on the phones. Hertfordshire, Phil, a very good morning. You're through to Dr. David Bull. Phil?
Good morning, Jeremy. Good morning, Dr. David.
Oh, good morning. I've lost you, actually.
Oh, have you?
I think I unplugged myself.
Did you? Hold on a second. He might be the chairman of Britain's fastest-growing political party, but he hasn't got it in the... Are you? Have you? Do you not know how to do it?
Yes, I do, because I used to be a television presenter. I've lost my wire.
This is brilliant.
No.
Are you all right? Can we have a bit of help, please?
Yes, can someone help me with this?
Right, Phil, you stay there while I read this out. That's absolutely fine. Don't worry at all. Here's an interesting one from Mary, who says,
I'm back with you.
no party is going to be above criticism. All of these people... there's Christian on his knees, trying not to headbutt. There we go.
Morning, Christian.
Thank you so much. Let's go back to Hertfordshire. Phil, you're back to Dr. David Bull.
Good morning, gentlemen. Right, I'm spitting feathers listening to these people ringing in saying that they're not going to vote reform because Conservatives are joining. How shallow can you get? Do you not remember what's happened in the last so many years? What's happening with government now? Now, just because somebody comes from the Tories or Labour, it doesn't make them a bad person because they've come from a bad party. It's probably the leader and the policies that they had to work to. It's like getting a new boss at work. You might have a great team, but your boss is useless.
But is it also not? This is my point I was going to make earlier, Phil, right? How much of reform support is people who believe their political home that used to be Tory has become reform because the Tories went in another direction? Somebody texted me, Dave, right, earlier and went, what would happen if Margaret Thatcher was reincarnated this morning and she rang up Nigel and went, the Tory party's rubbish, I want to join you? People would go, that's brilliant.
Well, I mean, she certainly wouldn't join the Conservatives, would she? No. Because, of course, they're not Conservative in any sense.
But he has a great point, Phil. You've got to believe in the process.
But you do, Phil, and this is the point. And look, I am sort of on a balancing act of making this party and professionalising this party. So we went from nothing. Let's go back to when I was deputy leader. 2%. We had no infrastructure, nothing around the country. We are now in a position with 450 branches, amazing members and supporters who go out in all weathers, knocking on doors. Now, some of the decisions we take within HQ may not resonate with everyone immediately, but I think you will see there is method in our madness. And the one thing I would say about Nigel, and I've worked with him for a very long time, he is the shrewdest political operator I have ever met. And the other thing is that, just going back to the analogy of a football team, for example, when you're in a party, outwardly, and he mentioned this at the press conference, we always agree, or I think it's important that we are seen as a team. Now, I will go to him and say I do not agree with you on certain things, as you saw possibly over the last few days. But we will then have a conversation and then we will come to a decision. At the end of the day, this party is held together by trust and a shared belief structure.